Thank you very much, Dr. Simi and other panelists, co-panelists. I see our seniors, and I'm enriched by their very important observations on the budget and related topics. And nice to meet many, the new co-panelists like Major General Chakravarti, Professor Notial, and many others, those who have joined as a ordinary participant as well. Good to see Professor Saran Singh as usual, a motivator for all of us. Well, Dr. Arjun and Dr. Simi, I will, restrict myself to 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm not in Delhi. That could be an interruption because of Wi-Fi access. So I have a PowerPoint, and let me share for the presentation. Okay, yes. I think this is all visible, is it? Can you see my slides?
Oh, it is coming. It is coming. It will take.
It still says that it
No,
start.
it's not coming.
Oh. I do not know. I mean, what,
Screen, but
can you show it from your end?
Sure.
Yes, we will share.
Well, what I have, done in my presentation, basically purely my own observations. Own observations. So these are my own personal views, nothing to do with my organization where I work. If you can, share the slides once again, that would be excellent. But let me start, the general sentiment, and I go by with the previous speakers. The general sentiment is first is that there's the aspiration of Vikshit Bharat, and by 2047, India aspires to be the developed country with the 30 trillion plus GDP. This is so whatever presented now, and if you go back to the previous presentations by the honorable finance ministers, these are purely, there is a link to each budget is going towards the Viksit Bharat. Particularly this year, union budget, talked more about the household consumptions and savings. So income tax exempted up to 1 lakh per month income. So I can tell you that, and like others, it's a people-friendly budget, lots of boost to the middle class, but depends on our expenditure, our demand pattern. Since the inflation is also going high, so how much one can buy, one can use within real effective income, that's also a matter of a question. But just I tell that this sentiment is that it's going to increase the household consumption and savings. Plus, this budget recognizes the 4 engines of development, very much linked with Vikshit Bharat 2047, agriculture sector, MSME, investment and exports. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Yeah, and exports. And then there are multiple driving pillars. There are no point of repeating them, but some things, which come my mind very clearly. That's very new, in terms of, Prime Minister Dhana Dhanya Krish Yojana. I do not know how many people will properly pronounce the Dhana Dhanya, but certainly is going to help the people, in particular the farmers, and the related activities. Plus, on connectivity front, modified Udan scheme, just an example, is a new line of activities, particularly focusing Bihar, the research and development for the private sector, people-to-people linkages and health insurance for the gig workers. We know the gig workers, the kind of treatment they get. So health insurance, identity, a very, very, very innovative, support. And plus, there are several others, in terms of our climate agenda, in terms of our maritime agenda, etc., etc. But 4 issues, and I go by the previous speakers as well, and people who will be speaking next to me, that the rising global uncertainties, those certainly not going to be, going to be taken care by the budget. Budget is purely for the domestic production. So, but something, we expect that uncertainty is going up. There are many complex scenario. So budget might help us to take care, rise above the challenges, those challenges. So I think there is little support. The plus rising inflation worldwide, it is not an India specific. Energy security worldwide, the divided climate agenda. So these are some of the global aspects and global issues which are going to affect in India. Let me come to one by one the major, some of my own observations. Next slide, please. Yeah, the first one is that if you look at the numbers, the foreign affairs, which you call in India external affairs, is a mixed outcomes. Why? MEA's own allotment in the total budget is declining. It's not even 1%. In 2023-24, which is an actual budget number, it was 0.65 is the total allotment of the MEA's budget. MEA is basically it's not in the top 10 ministries that draw the money from the budget, basically. And it is declining, 0.65 to 0.41. So this is a matter of concern, MEA's workload is rising, our external affairs minister, out of 365 days, like 300 days he has been traveling, and so also his team. With a small budget, how much one can do. But there's another point which previous speaker said, that the foreign nations, those who depend on us, their allotment has increased in 2025 and 26. So can you go the next slide, please? The next slide tells you the allotment. And no point of comparing what was the last year, what is this year, The thing is that the Bhutan, for right reason, they're picking up the bulk amount, and because we get very good quality green energy from them, and certainly it is our duty to support the Bhutan, the Himalayan kingdom, for their prosperity. This is the excellent, allotment. Plus, India slowly, in terms of infrastructure projects, energy project, transmission lines, housing, roads, bridges, integrated checkposts in the neighborhood, those India, India believes in step by step, unlike China, we go very steady, small but steady, In that way, I think 4,320 crores, 65% of the portfolio, actually devoted to the neighborhood. So neighborhood comes very much in the radar of the current government, current budget. One point which I'm also very impressed, that Chabahar port, continues to get the same allotment that it used to be earlier. Chabahar links strategic connection with Central Asia. So second observation, India's allotment to the foreign nation increase, and the neighborhood gets the chunk of it. Next, please. Third observation for me is that if you come out of the foreign to the commerce and industry, international commerce and international industry, international trade, India's export target by 2030 is the 2 trillion. Current our export in the goods is 778, goods and services is 778 billion. We're going to be a 2 trillion exports, goods and services by 2030 to support, to achieve that milestone or target. Export capacity, export promotions, those need to be, supported, and in a very collective manner, not in a piecemeal, So I found this time, couple of things like Bharat Trade Net, BTN, those who are dealing with international trade, exporters, importers, they know how important it is, It is a fantastic project. Government has allotted, see the number, 2,250 crore for setting up a DPI, digital public infrastructure. So this is actually going to be a game changer for international trade transaction purposes. And plus other, export capacity, etc., supporting MSMEs. Last observation from that, our value chain is rising, our exports is rising, our imports is rising much faster than exports. That imports feeding into our global exports. So we have to tally our duty structure at par with an ASEAN, because we import lots from ASEAN products or services, the parts and components to our global exports. So 10.66% is our average custom duty. This year, this budget has seen lots of slashing, rationalization of basic customs duty, by the way. Next slide, please. So I was talking about the rationalization of customs duty, no point of repeating line by line. What I see, because of rationalization, when you talk about inverted duty structure, that is going to be corrected. When you talk about a GVC, you cannot do everything in this world. It is Indian Railway used to do 20 years back everything for their construction, but you realize how bad the Indian Railway is. It's a good moving Indian Army from one place to another, but it is equally bad in terms of serving on time. But we have changed it. So how this has happened? Because the parts and components for the railways has actually came through the value chain that we created between India and many other countries. So I think because of the rationalization of customs duty, the value chain like LED TV, mobile phone, EV, semiconductors will get priority. Point number 5, next please. Next slide, yeah. The one which is missed by the previous budgets, it is that maritime capacity. And I see that this is the first time Government of India has set up a maritime development fund of 25,000 crore. For the information of the co-panelists, we do not have any container vessels, any cargo vessels, large serving India to others, which is in compliance with the International Maritime Organization environmental free conditions. So green shipping is kind of things that we have to do by 2030. So we do not have. So Maritime Development Fund is going to support shipbuilding, and there are other assistance. Please, next. Next, please. And so also the change in custom duty in the critical minerals. If we talk about the semiconductor, we need many important feedstocks, critical minerals. But today, the difference is between those which will be importing, like copper, brass, lead, and zinc scraps, or something like lithium-ion battery for cobalt for the semiconductor, your mobile phone, or anything that we do, all the duty structure need to be rationalized, and most of them in the critical minerals have been removed. That's a good development. Next, please. This is the last slide, point number 7, which are the takeaways. The one point is that this is the budget for the mass people. There's no doubt about it. Consumption and savings likely to go up. I expect more consumption, not in the savings. More consumptions will have a cyclical effect. Second is, several new initiatives not there earlier, so supporting our Viksit Bharat journey. Point number 3, the key outcomes are relating to neighborhood relations. 64% of the allotment is basically serving our neighborhood. Excellent job. Excellent move. Maritime capacity building, logistics, economic security, GVCs, export capacity. So these are the things which cannot be made by one budget, but going towards 2047, I hope these are going to get more and more momentum in coming years. Point number 4, which is very unique, that export expansion and capacity, which first time I see, kind of a maritime development fund, kind of an export capacity, and export incentive projects. Point number 5, which is I'm very worried, I worked within government organization, but even then, allow me to say this, if you're in MEA is going to take care of the big global challenges, MEA's budget is really not very much in a healthy sign. We need to support an MEA, we need to increase our diplomatic power arising, and to have more support, financial support means, there will be more motivation.